Good morning. Good morning. 7:36. Yes, there's going to be a whole lot of colliding tonight at the Guam Congress building. As this hearing on a legislative resolution that seeks to end the public health emergency. And I was a little confused. We'll bring on Senator Frank Blas Jr. in the KUAM News Link Zoom room. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Guam.
Thanks for joining us. And if we could just kind of start there, because I thought a resolution was basically like, a certificate saying, hey, this is how we feel. But the Senator Duenas was saying that this would actually end the public health emergency. Can you kind of explain like the process and legislatively and how this resolution would be binding?
Well, there are certain aspects of a resolution within the legislative body. Obviously, the one that's most commonly known is the one that's congratulatory or in commemoration of. Secondly, it expresses the desire of the legislature on behalf of the people of Guam for matters that are outside of the of our island. Although we have no ability to be able to vote on, if you will, or to deliberate, to discuss matters that pertain to Guam, let's say in Congress. So resolutions are oftentimes sent there too as well to express our desire. And then there's this part of the resolution where in essence this is the legislative version of the executive order. And what this provides is basically for a particular circumstance that the resolution would basically serve as an executive order, if you will, so that it can either alter, change, continue, or cease an action taken on by the executive branch. And in this case, this resolution is relative to the continuing state of emergency that that we're in, and that this resolution says, okay, we no longer we don't believe that there is sufficient grounds for continuance of the state of emergency. Therefore, in this particular instance, for this event, the state of emergency will therefore be ceased. This does not stop if there was another reason for a state of emergency, such as it's an earthquake or a typhoon. This does not say that the governor no longer has that ability to do that. She continues to do that. As a matter of fact, she can come in and request for the legislature for continuance of this current state of emergency, but there has to be that discussion for her to continue to do so. So that's what this resolution and this process for this resolution is that we're having a public hearing on tonight. That's what will take place if it so passes. Now it still needs the required majority vote in the legislature. Okay, you still need 8 members of the body to be able to agree to this. But once that's done, and let's say that that it does come before the body, and there's more than eight or more of us that decide that this state of emergency is going to end, and it ends.
So, Senator, so this in similar to like legislation. So there's a public hearing first, and then what? This resolution will go to committee and then eventually be introduced on the floor. Is that how it works?
Well, the way the standing rules now read, basically, and I appreciate that something as substantive as this piece of legislation, if you will, is yes, obviously it goes to committee, or the body as a whole can take it on and basically provide a report to the rest of the body on the actions taken, or the information received, and as a result of that information received on the public hearing, what this resolution now will say, or if there are going to be any changes to the language of the resolution, or is the resolution going to stay as is. Then it goes before the body, in session, and is acted on. Now, whether or not this, I mean, can this be the grounds to call for a special session, emergency session of you? I think it does. But that's putting the cart before the horse first. Let's have the public hearing. Let's get the public input and everything, and then proceed from there.
Do you have any examples of other resolutions similar to this style of this classification resolution, maybe in the recent past that we can compare this one to?
Unfortunately, not really. There is, but there is language in statute that provide for us to do this. In other cases, the state of emergency, the goal is to get out of that state of emergency. Okay, as the former Homeland Security Advisor, and having to run many state of emergencies back, when we were, somehow inundated with a number of different, both natural and man-made disasters. It was never the goal, or it was never the desire to be able to let the state of emergency run past, what is necessary to make sure that we put our resources in place. Right. And such as in this case, obviously one of the questions is not so much, what's happening with the surge or whatnot, but haven't we over the last couple of years already, basically figured out the nuts and bolts and the ins and outs of what we need to do to be able to respond and even anticipate, what may be happening, and the number of reasons why we continued in the state of emergency. It's changed. Okay, I remember one of the very first things we wanted to do, and rightly so, is first off when the virus first hit the island, nobody knew what was could get a grasp on what to expect or what this is. Okay, so therefore, yes, it's natural that we'll go in a state of emergency. Then we started to deal with surges, and then we started to deal with increases in cases. If you can remember, there was a huge, public relations effort, with this strive for 5.
Right.
Okay, I remember that when we needed to get our car score below 5 before we can we can get out of lockdown and all the other restrictions that we got. Well, what happened a couple of years later when we had the car score up to 162, far from strive for 5. Okay, and so the goalposts kept changing, and he kept moving. And along these lines, there should have been efforts, and there should have been ways to be able to make sure that there's continued coordination. This is not to say, too, Chris, that if the legislature so deems that the state of emergency ends, it doesn't say that the government operations are going to shut down. I think that in the last 2 years we've developed a synergy, and we've developed basically a method to be able to have cooperation. Government will continue to run, and the part of government's effort here is to continue to deal with the surge. Right. I mean, to deal with this virus, it can do so. Does it need to do so with regard to continuing to stay in the state of emergency? No, it doesn't. Okay, I think this for me, I believe that part of the state of emergency gives the administration, gives the government broad enough powers that many things can be done, despite legislative rules and statutes that have been set in place as to how to get things done, which leads to a lot of questions as to whether it's necessary. Right. And in the meantime, how does that affect the community? How does that affect those individuals who work day in and day out, want to be able to work, businesses that want to be open so they can provide the services to the people? Okay, it's amazing that over the last 2 years that businesses have on Thursday night, you close down and hope for a better day. Friday, you find out you can't even come to work. Yet in the meantime, there are other sectors, primarily in the public sector, that's just all not business as usual. Wait a minute, how can it be business as usual in one place but not in another? How does this state of emergency truly work? So there's a lot of ambiguity that has occurred. If you go through the different executive orders, you were mentioning earlier that recent executive order is pretty lengthy. Yeah. But you look at a lot of times, and unfortunately, a lot of times it's a cut and paste of previous legislation. Yeah. Then executive orders. Then they put in new information, and now they're using that this executive order, to basically express their desire and they're discontent with what the legislature seeks to do. What does that got to do with the state of
It
emergency?
is what it is. Senator, I want to ask you, you said you're a former Homeland, and I know you're a former Homeland Security advisor. So in the governor's EO, she talks about her utilization of the National Guard, right, and how they're federally funded until July, and then she makes an accusation to the legislature that ending this public health emergency it unnecessarily toys with the lives of the men and women in the Guard. She also makes an assertion that emergency SNAP benefits will be in jeopardy with this resolution. How do you respond, I guess, first of all, to the claims, and then do you believe that they're accurate?
Why do I need to hear a lot of these concerns or read about a lot of these concerns in an executive order that has already been preconceived? Okay, these are conversations that we can obviously have as to what some of the consequences or the benefits of continuing to have a to be in the state of emergency. But at the end of the day, what we live in, Chris, is we live in a system of democratic government. Okay, we live in a system where yes, the executive branch provides the enforcement of policy, but we have also a branch that creates the policy, that also speaks in behalf of the people and asks the questions on behalf of the people.
Is this that checks and balances thing?
Yeah, this is exactly
that checks and balances thing. Gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
Okay, yeah, and somehow, since basically March of 2020, that went out the door. Okay, and so it's a matter of, okay, do as I say, not as I do, or trust what I say, don't believe what I do. It becomes, continues to become very confusing. Now, there may be some legitimate reasons, there may be good reasons, but why don't we have the conversation? And if the concern is, if having these conversations, we're going to delay things, okay, there's been a lot of actions over the last few weeks, because what we're doing is, let's talk about the executive order. We're going to go into incremental steps and to be able to do this. Why can't we have these conversations prior to this happening? Okay, would it take away from those incremental steps? It wouldn't take away from it, but it'll give us some sense of comfort, at least for the community, and recognizing that that the things are basically above board and manageable, because there's more to life on Guam than just the government, the operations of the government of Guam. There's the operations of the community of Guam.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying. It's that almost like we had to force the information out. But I feel like they were about to come out with an announcement about the mask mandate anyway because of what the bases had done with the lifting of the mask mandate. But Senator, I don't know if you saw in the EO when we go to low risk status according to the CDC parameters, it says in the EO 2 weeks after that that the mask mandate will be lifted.
Yeah, well, again, in today's world, okay, you got multiple sources of being able to obtain information. Whether it's true or not, what you got to do is you get this thing called fact checking. But at the same time, as you're being inundated from this, this thing, it provides, and it leads to sometimes a lot of massive confusion, as to what the new rules are, and so again, it's having this discussion. A lot of times when you're having these things, you're making it in a vacuum. Okay. Granted, you say you've got the input from many experts, from many subject matter experts. We've heard over the last 2 years, that many of the subject matter. How many times have we changed over? And as far as who's at the helm of a lot of these places because of disagreements. I remember very distinctly at one point in time there was information or those recommendations provided by the Physicians Advisory Group, okay, that were never heeded, okay, and then yet we're going to continue to claim that based on science and based on the information from subject matter experts that this is the route we're going to continue to take. What happened here? And as a result of the executive order, we're just going to have to live with it. But you see, the thing is, we need to have a conversation. And what this executive order will basically provide is, look, the state of emergency is going to end. You want to start it up again? Let's have a conversation. Yeah. Okay, can it be started up again? Should it be necessary? Sure. Nothing's to preclude that. It says that you can never go back into a state of emergency, based on this event. It's just now that there has to be a conversation. There has to be justification for it. Okay, I'd like to be able to learn to know a little bit more about, why we have to continue to have emergency procurement. Why haven't we been able to plan? For a lot of these things, you say that we're going to take away from the ability of being able to utilize these resources within the government. You have the ability as the manager of the executive branch to be able to move the resources of over 12,000 employees and maybe even more. You can have the ability to have conversations with different organizations to be able to continue to have them, work with you, side by side, hand in hand, to be able to do the things. But have a conversation.
Well, I'm pretty sure there's going to be some conversations had tonight, Senator. I wanted to ask because we didn't get to catch up with you last week when I brought on the your colleagues who were sponsoring this bill that kind of tightens up the reporting requirements for the ARP funds. Did you want to speak to that? Yeah.
There's another one that goes, to why we need to, why this resolution, to end the state of emergency. They themselves are the ones that basically put out publicly and over, basically, a national website that they will be able to provide monthly updates, monthly reports on how how the monies received from the federal government to be able to deal with pandemic, how that is going to be spent, where is that money being spent? They were the ones that said they were going to put the monthly. It was in their writing, and yet when we have to continue to ask, okay, how did this happen? Where's how is this money going to be able to affect the government operations? Granted that you say that we don't have an ability to be able to sway or to decide on how the ARP money is going to be able to provide it. But the problem is when you start to use the ARP money or the other federal stimulus money to be able to supplant or to be able to to take in place of where the general fund monies, okay, or monies derived from local taxes, where that started, then it becomes, more and more in basically our side of the court of being able to manage the purse strings of the government.
Right.
This is a way to be able to do this. It's not to say to stop.
Yeah.
Okay. It's how are you basically going to pay for this? Because at the end of the day, okay, remember this money's got to be accounted for. And if we can't account for it, if we're not able to say how we spent this and whether or not we spent this in furtherance of being able to deal with a disaster, but also within the guidelines set for procurement, guess what? We're going to have to pay for it. Then you're going to come back to us and you're going to say, oh, you know what? I misspent, X amount of millions of dollars. And now I'm going to need some money from the general fund to be able to pay it back. Wait a minute. Okay. Then you're going to throw that onus on our backs, on the backs of the people. It's going to be very difficult to be able to go back to the people and say, I'm sorry, but the government is no longer going to be able to provide the service because now we have to pay back money that the government spent. That's what we want to avoid. That's what we've been continuing to try to avoid, basically over the last couple months. Last few couple years.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for your time, Senator. And I feel I think the people really. Obviously, it's a little much to expect, Democrats or Republicans to really work together. But I think what the people of Guam want is some sense of professionalism between all these branches of government, because it kind of seems like maybe we do need to do a reset and have a seat at the table and have these conversations, Senator. Well, good luck tonight.
Yeah, and really, I think that. Granted that, based on the optics, that this may be a partisan issue. This is not a partisan issue. Okay, this is by far this is not a partisan issue. Okay, and although despite that there appears to be I'm not really sure, but there may not be any Democrat co-sponsors to this resolution. It doesn't say the Democrats are that those that represent the Democratic Party are not going to vote for this.
Yeah, well, I think it's telling too, Senator, that Speaker, acting Lieutenant Governor / Speaker Theresa Lahi, she penned a pretty strongly worded letter to the governor last night and said basically, hey, this resolution that you're very critical of in your executive order hasn't even been up for a public hearing yet, and she also kind of defended the body. So that was pretty telling if you want to talk about. Potential bipartisan support of this seemingly partisan resolution, right?
Yeah, and it's and granted that because again the optics show that basically makes it look like this is a Republican effort. I mean this is an effort by senators that represent the people of Guam in the 36th Guam legislature who happen to be Republican.
Got it. Thank you,
Okay.
Senator.
All right.
Thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks a lot, Chris. Okay,
Good luck.
You have a great
Good
day.
luck. Good luck.
All right.
Are you talking about your knees or what?
Well, that's what I got to work on now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know if you guys know. Can I tell them?
Sure.
Yeah. Senator Blas had double knee replacement.
No,
Oh,
not
wait,
double.
wait.
One of the things I've ever is that first off, for those who got double knee surgery, for what I went through with just one knee surgery, those double knee surgeries, they've already qualified for sainthood.
Right. Yeah. So you're on the one knee. Got it.
Oh yeah, I'm still in the purgatory side.
Well,
but,
good luck with your rehab this morning, Senator.
Thanks a lot, buddy.
Okay, there
you
you go. Senator Frank Blas, Jr. I mean, of all the times to have knee surgery during Lent, right, sir? That's gonna mess with your prayer game just a little bit here. 7:57. It's Wednesday, March 30th. We did have some comments. Oh, of course we did. Thank you, Facebook Live.